On December 30th, 2025, Caroline Kennedy stood by a hospital bed, watching her daughter Tatiana take her final breath at the age of 35 after a battle with blood cancer. This was not the first time she had been forced to witness death take someone she loved. At the age of 5, she lost her father to an assassin's bullet. At 10, her uncle Bobby was shot and killed. At 36, her mother Jackie died of cancer. At 41, her brother John Jr. plunged into the sea in a plane crash. And now, at 68, Caroline Kennedy, the child once known as the most famous little girl in America, has become the sole survivor of the family of 4 who once lived in the White House. This is the story of a woman who watched her entire family disappear, yet refused to let tragedy define her life. If you are born with the Kennedy surname, you inherit not only the greatest political legacy in American history, but also a burden few can imagine. Caroline Kennedy did not simply carry the Kennedy name, she became the last remaining member of a family that had vanished into history. To the world, this is often called the Kennedy curse, a term coined by the media to describe the relentless string of tragedies that struck the family. But to Caroline, it was not a sensational headline or a conspiracy theory people liked to debate. It was simply the life she was forced to live, day after day, under the unblinking gazes of the public. Caroline's life was not shaped by ordinary loss, the kind anyone might endure. It was marked by assassinations broadcast live on television, plane crashes that shocked an entire nation, and cancer that stole away the people she loved most. With every loss, she was denied the right to grieve in private. Every tear, every moment of sorrow was captured by cameras, dissected and turned into historical record. The harsh reality is that Caroline learned how to live with grief at the age of 5, an age when most American children are worried only about dolls and coloring books. In 1957, when Caroline Bouvier Kennedy was born, her arrival brought immense comfort to Jackie and John F. Kennedy after earlier losses. Jackie had suffered the heartbreak of a stillbirth in 1955, and Caroline became the most precious gift life could offer. No one could have imagined that this child would grow up to become the living symbol of an era later known as Camelot, the term used to describe the golden but fleeting Kennedy years in the White House. By the age of 3, Caroline had become the most famous child in America. Images of her with her short haircut and neat dresses, running through the Oval Office or riding her pony macaroni on the White House lawn, became iconic moments in American culture. But behind those charming photographs was Jackie Kennedy's constant effort to create a sense of normalcy for her daughter amid the pressures of public life. She set up a kindergarten inside the White House so Caroline could learn alongside other ordinary children, creating a small, protected world away from reporters' lenses. Jackie gave Caroline the pony macaroni, not only for play, but to create moments of innocence and calm within the relentless intensity of political life. Yet even during what seemed like the happiest years, tragedy was already lurking. In August 1963, Caroline's younger brother, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, survived only 2 days after birth due to respiratory distress syndrome. Patrick's death was the first dark sign hovering over the White House, and just 3 months later, the greatest tragedy of all struck. November 22, 1963, changed Caroline Kennedy's life forever. At just 5 years old, she lost her father in the historic assassination in Dallas, Texas. The image of Caroline in a blue coat, tightly holding her mother's hand at President John F. Kennedy's funeral, became one of the most heartbreaking symbols in American history. Her eyes, still innocent, yet beginning to understand that her father would never return, brought an entire nation to tears. That was the moment Caroline lost her childhood, lost the sense of safety every child deserves. But Caroline's pain did not end there. In 1968, when she was 10 years old, her uncle Bobby Kennedy, who had become her anchor after her father's death, was also assassinated while running for president. Bobby was not just her uncle, he was a second father, the man she could rely on for protection and reassurance. His death plunged Jackie Kennedy into overwhelming fear for her children's lives. She realized that the Kennedy name did not bring only prestige, but also danger. That fear drove Jackie to make one of the most controversial decisions of her life: marrying Greek shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis. Many criticized Jackie for this marriage, accusing her of betraying JFK's legacy. But the truth is that Jackie did not marry Onassis for love. She did it to secure financial resources and protection for Caroline and John Jr. Onassis could provide private security and take her children to remote Greek islands, where they could temporarily escape the spotlight and the threats that followed them. For Caroline, her mother's marriage meant once again having to adapt to drastic change, to live within a blended family, and to endure public judgment over decisions she had no power to make. As she grew older, Caroline Kennedy faced a question few people could truly understand. How do you become yourself when the world sees you only as a living legacy? Instead of following the political path many expected, Caroline chose a life rooted in education and culture. She earned a degree in history from Harvard Radcliffe and later studied law at Columbia University. These choices were deliberate. Caroline wanted to understand how the world worked, to equip herself with the knowledge needed to protect her father's legacy without becoming a politician herself. In 1986, Caroline married Edwin Schlossberg, an artist and exhibition designer with no interest in political glamour. Edwin was not a Kennedy, not a politician, and that was precisely why Caroline chose him. With Edwin, she could build a separate family, a more ordinary life, removed from constant public scrutiny. They had 3 children, Rose, Tatiana, and Jack, who were raised in relative privacy, spared the pressure of becoming public symbols the way their mother once had been. Caroline also found her own way to control her family's narrative. Instead of writing a tell-all memoir exposing family secrets, as many expected, and which could have earned her millions, she chose to use books and honors like the Profile in Courage Award to quietly but meaningfully preserve and promote her father's legacy. She edited poetry anthologies, published works on civil rights and the Constitution, and used her platform to honor the values her father fought for. This was Caroline's message to the world. I will not let you turn my family into entertainment, but I will let their legacy endure. In 1994, when Caroline was 36, she faced yet another devastating loss. Her mother, Jackie Kennedy, died of lymphoma. Jackie was not only Caroline's mother, she was her guide, her final anchor of safety, the one person who fully understood the depth of Caroline's pain. Jackie taught her how to live with dignity under the spotlight, how to protect herself and her family from public intrusion, and most importantly, how to transform pain into strength instead of letting it destroy her. When Jackie died, Caroline lost not just a mother, but a teacher and companion in her lifelong journey of confronting tragedy. But the greatest shock was still to come. On July 16, 1999, Caroline's younger brother, John F. Kennedy Jr., along with his wife Carolyn and sister-in-law Lauren Bassett, was killed in a plane crash off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. John Jr. was not only Caroline's brother, he was the only person left who shared with her the memories of their parents, of life in the White House, of what it meant to carry the Kennedy name. He understood her without explanation. John Jr.'s death made Caroline the sole survivor of the family of 4 who had once lived in the White House. She became the one left behind, the person who carried the entire legacy, all the memories and all the pain on her shoulders. After John Jr.'s death, Caroline chose to withdraw almost completely from the spotlight. She needed time to confront an unbearable loss, to find a way to keep living when everyone she loved most was gone. For many years, she lived quietly with her own small family, focusing on raising her children and continuing charitable work connected to the Kennedy legacy without placing herself in public view. But Caroline Kennedy is not someone who runs from responsibility. After years of silence, she returned to serve her country in her own way. In 2013, President Barack Obama appointed Caroline as United States Ambassador to Japan, making her the first woman to hold that position. This was not merely an honorary role. Caroline demonstrated a natural diplomatic ability shaped from an early age by navigating political encounters alongside her parents. She skillfully handled sensitive issues such as territorial disputes, trade relations, and especially the legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, subjects requiring exceptional tact and emotional sensitivity. From 2022 to the present, She has continued her service as United States Ambassador to Australia, carrying on the mission of connection and fulfilling what she sees as a Kennedy's responsibility to the nation. These roles not only reflect her competence, but also her commitment to service, despite having endured so much loss. Caroline proved that she did not need to become a president or a senator to make a meaningful impact. She worked quietly, effectively, and with dignity, exactly as Jackie had taught her. One of Caroline's greatest achievements was successfully protecting the privacy of her 3 children, Rose, Tatiana, and Jack. They were allowed to develop their own paths, Rose in film and social activism, Jack in policy and law, without being trapped beneath the shadow of the family name. This was the greatest gift Caroline could give them, the freedom to be themselves. But as if life had not been cruel enough to Caroline, tragedy found her again, even in her 60s. In 2024, shortly after giving birth to her second child, her daughter Tatiana Schlossberg was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, AML, an aggressive and dangerous blood cancer. Tatiana, a talented environmental journalist, a young mother with 2 small children, suddenly faced a fight for her life. For Caroline, this was not only the fear of a mother watching her daughter suffer, but also a haunting reminder of losing Jackie to cancer 3 decades earlier. Tatiana publicly revealed her illness on the anniversary of JFK's assassination, November 22, through a deeply moving essay titled "A Battle with My Blood." In it, Tatiana wrote not only about fighting disease, but about how to find hope when everything feels hopeless. She shared her fear of not knowing whether she would have enough time to watch her children grow up, and the guilt of knowing that her mother, Caroline, might once again have to face the death of someone she loved. Tatiana fought bravely for many months, enduring chemotherapy, bone marrow transplants, and unimaginable pain. But on December 30th, 2025, Tatiana passed away at the age of 35, leaving behind 2 young children, a grieving husband, and a mother who had witnessed far too much death. Caroline Kennedy, at 68, once again had to confront burying someone she loved most, but this time it was her own daughter. There is no pain comparable to burying your child. This was the cruelest trial, the final tragedy in a life already filled with tragedy. Caroline Kennedy's life can be summed up through a powerful metaphor: a lighthouse in a storm. Though waves of tragedy repeatedly crashed and destroyed everything around it, the lighthouse remained standing. Not because it was untouched, cracks and fractures are still visible along its structure, but because it chose to hold on to its light to guide the next generation, even when it was the only structure left along a devastated shoreline. Caroline Kennedy lost her father at 5, her uncle at 10, her mother at 36, her brother at 41, and now her daughter at 68. She watched her entire family disappear one by one under the most heartbreaking circumstances. Yet what is remarkable is not what she lost, but what she preserved: dignity, kindness, and the ability to continue serving even after her heart had been broken again and again. She did not allow tragedy to define her. She did not write memoirs to profit from pain. She did not seek pity or public attention. Instead, she lived quietly, raised her children, served her country, and protected her family's legacy. She proved that true strength is not about never falling, but about continuing to rise after every fall. The true legacy of Caroline Kennedy is not her ambassadorial titles or the books she has published. It is her ability to maintain dignity and compassion after everyone she loved was gone. It is the way she raised her children to be themselves. It is a resilience that refused to collapse despite facing trials most of us cannot imagine. Caroline Kennedy, the last child of Camelot, proved that even when you are the only one left, you can still choose to live with meaning and keep the light alive. If Caroline Kennedy's story has touched your heart, please press like and subscribe to continue following stories of human strength in the face of adversity. Don't forget to share this video with those you think need a reminder that no matter how hard life becomes, we can still choose to stand up and keep moving forward. And now, I want to ask you, if you were Caroline Kennedy, where would you find the strength to go on after all that loss? And what do you think of the way she chose to live and protect her family's legacy? Was it the right choice? Share your thoughts in the comments below.